It all started with this, the Ducati Panther, the great-great-granddaddy of all modern Ducati superbikes. It was the first Ducati to feature their signature L-twin engine with the belt-driven camshaft. The motorcycle was introduced in 1980 as the Pantah 500 SL with a 500cc L-twin engine and their iconic desmodromic valve train. The engine made 45 brake horsepower at 9,000 RPM. It wasn't that great, to be honest. To make matters worse, the motorcycle was far from perfect. Like, it was heavily under-suspended, the engine lacked any character unless you wring its neck, etc. But Ducati was very quick to respond to the criticisms and revised the motorcycle for 1981 model year and launched the Pantah 600 SL. The Ducati increased the engine capacity to 583cc by increasing the bore from 81mm to 83mm. This gave the motorcycle the much needed performance upgrade. Ducati also set up the motorcycle with much better suspension. During this time, Ducati was also working on a 750cc race bike to compete in the TT Racing series. For competing in the TT Racing, Ducati needed to homologate a lot of racing parts. So for that purpose, in 1983, Ducati introduced the Pantah 650 SL. The 650 SL served as a testing ground for homologating parts for their 750cc race bike. The Pantah 650 SL is also the most iconic one in the Pantah lineup. Following the success of the Panther, Ducati introduced the 750 F1. This motorcycle was based on their 750cc TT Racer. The 750 F1 was also the last motorcycle developed by Ducati before the Cagiva takeover in the late 1985. The 750 F1 was one of the best handling motorcycles of its time. It was built to compete in the Formula Racing series. The 750 F1 was also incredibly rare as Ducati only made 1800 units worldwide. Under its aerodynamic skin, it had a 750cc 4-valve desmodromic L-twin engine, which again was based on their 750cc TT Racer. The engine acted as a stressed member inside the trellis frame. The motorcycle only weighed in at just 175 kilograms. Combine that with 65 bhp of output, the 750 F1 was capable of doing 206 km per hour, which wasn't that great even at that time. But when you add a really engaging handling characteristic to that mix, the 750 F1 became a really fun machine to ride. The racing career of the 750 F1 wasn't as successful as the 600 TT before it, but it did manage to get a few titles under its belt. The 750 F1 was used in the Italian Formula TT Championship in 1985, dominating the class with riders Marco Lucinelli and Virginio Ferrari, who also won the riders' title. But the most significant victory was achieved in 1986 by Lucinelli at the Battle of Twins in Daytona, a competition which is reserved for twin-cylinder motorcycles. The motorcycle remained in the market until 1988 and was replaced by 851. After the Panther, the 851 was the next big thing in the Ducati's superbike history. It was the first Ducati to have a 4-valve per-cylinder engine with desmodromic valve train. This engine was co-developed with Cosworth. The design of the engine was actually based on the legendary engineer Mr. Massimo Bordi's 4-valve Desmo design from 1973. The 851 was also the first modern Ducati superbike to feature liquid cooling and fuel injection. Even though the engine was a big leap forward, it still had parts that trace back to the early Panther days. The engine displaced 851cc. Compared to the previous generations, the 851 had a massive increase in power figure. It made 93 brake horsepower at 9600 rpm. The early examples of this motorcycle were criticized for twitchy handling due to the 16-inch wheel. Later, Ducati updated it to 17-inch wheels. The 851 also helped the Ducati to revitalize its competitive spirit on the racetrack by winning 1990's World Superbike Championship. Following the success on the racetrack, Ducati upgraded the 851 to 888. As the name suggests, the 888 had an 888cc engine, which was achieved by increasing the bore from 91 to 94 mm. Despite the higher capacity, the power output remained relatively same at 94 bhp. Like the 851, the 888 was also a great success on the racetrack, as it was managed to snatch 2 World Superbike Championship titles in a row in 1991 and 1992. In 1993, Ducati ceased the production of the 888 after being beaten by Kawasaki in the World Superbike Championship. What followed the 888 was an absolute masterpiece. Designed by the legendary designer Mr. Massimo Tamburini, the Ducati 916 is often considered as one of the most beautiful motorcycles ever made. The 916 is also the most successful Ducati on the racetrack ever. The Ducati 916 was considerably smaller than its predecessor. Thanks to the new chromoly steel trellis frame, Ducati was able to make the 916 shorter and narrower than the Ducati 888. Even though the 916 is considered as the groundbreaking motorcycle of its time, it is quite hard not to notice the influence of Honda NR750's design had on this motorcycle, like the underseat exhaust, narrow waist, similar squad of dual headlights, single-sided swing arm, etc. But at the same time, those design elements were necessary for the 916's intended purpose, which is to win races. And winning races it really did, as it snatched 3 World Superbikes Championship titles in a row from 1994 to 1996 and another one in 1998 before making way to the 996. Even though the 916 was a revolutionary product, you could still trace back its roots to the early Panther days. As per the nomenclature, it had a 916cc 8-valve Desmodromic L-twin engine, which made a considerably higher output than its predecessor, 114 brake horsepower at 9000 rpm and 91 Nm of torque at an unusually low 6900 rpm. The 916 became so iconic that Ducati decided to keep refining the motorcycle for a few more years, and as a result, the 996 was born. It was basically a 916 with a bigger engine. The styling remained unchanged as the 916 was so gorgeous that Ducati didn't felt the need to revamp its styling. As the name suggests, the 996 had a 996cc 8-valve Desmodromic L-twin engine, making 114 brake horsepower at 8500 rpm and 93 Nm of torque at 8000 rpm. These figures are more or less the same as the Ducati 916. Ducati also upgraded the chassis and the suspension. In the 4 years of its existence, the 996 was managed to claim 3 World Superbike Championship titles, which was a true testament for how effective the 916 platform was. In 2002, Ducati updated the 996 as 998, and it was the final edition of the 916 series. To achieve the 998cc mark, Ducati made the engine over-squared by increasing the bore to 100mm and reducing the stroke to 63.5mm. That, coupled with the larger valves and higher camshaft lift, resulted in a higher power output of 125 brake horsepower. In 2003, Ducati finally replaced the 916 series with all-new 999, but the motorcycle divided opinion in terms of styling. Designed by Pierre Blanche, the 999 was a worthy successor to the 916 series. The motorcycle enjoyed a huge success on the racetrack, claiming 3 World Superbike Championship titles in the hands of Neil Hodgson, James Toseland, and Troy Bayliss. Obviously, it was powered by 999cc 8-valve Desmodromic L-twin engine, making 145 brake horsepower at 9750 rpm and 160 Nm of torque at 8000 rpm. Despite its quirky looks, magazines from all around the world praised the motorcycle. MCN from UK called the motorcycle as the best V-twin machine on the planet. MotorcycleUSA.com described it as stupendous and epitome of V-twin power. Just like the 916, the successor of 999, the 1098, was also a gorgeous machine. With the 1098 saw the return of traditional Ducati design elements, and fans from all around the world cherished it. This time around, Ducati increased the engine capacity well over 1000cc, 1098 to be exact. And this caused quite a stir in the racing world. According to Wikipedia, before releasing the 1098, Ducati lobbied with FIM to update the World Superbike rules to accommodate its new motorcycle, and threatened to withdraw from World Superbike series if the rules weren't changed. This pissed off other manufacturers, because Ducati is the most dominant player in the WSBK, and if they are allowed to compete with larger engines, they will be pretty much untouchable. So some of them also threatened to leave. To make everybody happy, FIM announced a new rule change for 2008 season. The V-twin engines will be allowed to have extra 200cc to compensate for the lack of 2 cylinders. But at the same time, the extra engine modification allowed for the 2-cylinder machines will be no more. This rule was implemented in an effort to level the playing field. So from that point onwards, Ducati had to make homologation special on variants to compete in the World Superbike series. At that time, the 1098 was the most powerful Ducati ever made with 160 brake horsepower on tap. In 2009, Ducati launched an updated version of 1098 as 1198 with an even bigger 1199cc engine. It made 180 brake horsepower and 122 Nm of torque. The motorcycle was also a hit in the racing scene, with 2 World Superbike Championship titles in the hands of Troy Bayliss and Carlos Checa. The 1098 was replaced by Panigale in 2012. The motorcycle is named after Ducati's manufacturing town, the Borgo Panigale. The Panigale was powered by an all-new Super Quattro L-twin engine. According to Ducati, only 15% of the parts were carried over from previous engine. The new Super Quattro engine was highly over-squared, and also unlike the previous generations, the valve train in Super Quattro used chain and gears instead of belt and pulleys. The Super Quattro produced a very impressive 195 brake horsepower and 133 Nm of torque. The Panigale was among the first motorcycles to have an electronically adjustable suspension. In 2013, Ducati introduced the World Superbike Series homologation special Panigale 1199R. In terms of specifications, it was more powerful and lighter than the regular Panigale, weighing in at just 187 kilograms ready to ride. Less weight combined with more power made the Panigale R lightning fast by clocking a top speed of 325 km per hour according to a test conducted by Road and Track magazine. Ducati then introduced an even lighter variant of the 1199 Panigale called the Superleggera. The motorcycle only weighed in at just 177 kilograms ready to ride. Following the success of Panigale 1199, in 2015, Ducati introduced even more powerful Panigale 1299. With engine capacity approaching to 1.3 liters, the 1285cc L-twin unit produced 205 brake horsepower at 10,500 rpm and a humongous 142 Nm of torque at 8,750 rpm. It was also the last flagship Ducati to have an L-twin engine. Like the Panigale 1199, the 1299 also had the R and Superleggera versions. The 1299 Superleggera in particular showed the world how far Ducati has progressed in terms of technology and how far they are willing to push themselves to achieve the ultimate performance. The 1299 Superleggera was the first production motorcycle in the world to have a carbon fiber chassis and swing arm. Due to the lavish use of carbon fiber, the motorcycle only weighed in at an insanely light 167 kilograms ready to ride. Combined with the 215 brake horsepower on tap, you can imagine just how mental it would be to ride. Ducati also made a final edition as a farewell to their flagship L-twin. But despite all these crazy powerful versions, the Panigale is the only flagship Ducati which was unable to win a single World Superbike Series championship, and that's kind of ironic. The new Panigale V4 that followed was the next big thing in the Ducati's Superbike history. For the first time, a flagship Ducati is propelled by a V4 engine. Yes, there was the Desmosedici before it, but it was the road legal version of the MotoGP bike and was an exclusive limited one. The new V4 engine, known as the Desmosedici Stradale, is derived directly from the MotoGP bike. The spec sheet certainly shows that. The 1100cc V4 unit produces 214 brake horsepower at 13,000 rpm and 124 Nm of torque at 10,000 rpm. In the Speciale, however, that power jumps to 226 brake horsepower. But the real star of the show is the homologation special V4R. This 1000cc V4 machine makes a staggering 234 brake horsepower at 15,000 rpm and 112 Nm of torque at 11,500 rpm. Ducati is dead set on regaining their lost glory in the World Superbike Championship, and it seems that the new V4 is helping. But the competition is also fierce. At this moment, Ducati is on top in the constructors' standing, ahead of the current champions, the Kawasaki, but only by just 1 point.